of you and will begin to communicate to you and will transfer that hidden wisdom from spiritual to spiritual. And so that hidden wisdom is not transferred by our eyes and by our ears, but it is transferred from spirit to spirit. Which is why you can come in here and praise God and worship God and not hear one word from any pastor and still walk away with a hidden wisdom that God has ordained, set aside for you, that has been transferred from a spirit to you. Now if you look at this, you go deeper into the spiritual to spiritual. Spirits do not need to speak to communicate. Which means that if you walk in my presence, or if I am in your presence, and God has revealed a hidden wisdom to me, then you come into my presence, you come into my vicinity, or if I come into your vicinity, then that hidden wisdom and that spirit, if you have the spirit on you, if you have the spirit on you, then the hidden wisdom inside of me, that spirit inside of me, will get up and communicate with your spirit without you saying one word, and without me saying one word, and begin to transfer that hidden wisdom onto your life just by being around us. And that's why you have to be careful by who you're around, because your spirit will communicate and will begin to transfer from you onto someone else and from someone else onto you. And so if you want to begin to understand the hidden wisdom that God has revealed to different people, you just need to get around them. You don't even need to speak to them. You don't even need to look at them. You just need to get around them to where your spirit and their spirit begin to communicate and begin to talk. Have you ever walked into a place and instantly known something about that place, where you just got a bad feeling about the place, where you just looked around and it just felt wrong, where there was something wrong with it? That's because your spirit began to communicate with another spirit, and so you know stuff about that place that nobody told you, that you can even see, because your spirit is communicating with another spirit without words, without vision, without your will or your mind being involved. Your spirit will communicate the hidden wisdom. And so not only do we receive the hidden wisdom from God directly, but there's a way that we can transfer the hidden wisdom from us onto somebody else. Isn't that what happens on Sunday? Isn't that why you draw in here for Sunday? Because you want the hidden wisdom that God has revealed to your pastor to be deposited onto your life, so you can walk away with a hidden wisdom, with what you need. And so you need to understand what it says when it says comparing spiritual things with spiritual things, explaining spiritual things with spiritual. He's not talking about words. He's not talking about vision. He's talking about your spirit stirring up and stepping up and recognizing your spirit in somebody else. That's why Jesus could walk through a crowd and the entire crowd's faith would soar, not because of one word he said, but because when they got around him, they understood that his spirit was communicating faith and was literally screaming faith out to everybody's spirit that could hear it. And so everybody that got around him that had a spirit that could listen heard faith, 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 faith just by being around Jesus Christ. That's why he would walk through towns and you'd get overwhelmed by crowds. That's why he would try to go into the town and there'd be so many people he couldn't even walk into the crowd, because his spirit was communicating at such a level that so many people just knew something. They didn't know who this Jesus of Nazareth was. They never studied the law. They didn't know who the Messiah was. They didn't know this, but their spirit stood up and they said, I've heard something in the spiritual. I've heard something that supersedes what my eyes see or what my ears hear or what I know in my mind, and so I'm going to move according to what my spirit has said. And that's why they got saved. That's why their sicknesses were healed. That's why they got in the presence of faith, not because they understood it with their mind, not because they saw it with their eyes, and not because they heard it with their ears, but because something inside their spirit heard something from another spirit. And so you have to be careful. You have to be so careful about who you go by and who you are around. And you have to position yourself around people that you can hear something positive from their spirit. Something that will lift you up. Something that will teach you. Something that will reveal the hidden wisdom onto your life. My God. But if you go down, It says, but the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, but they are foolishness to him. Nor can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. And so this only applies to those who have the Spirit of God in their life. And so because it cannot, because God says, I will not communicate the hidden wisdom through anything you see in language, because he doesn't have a translator to translate it into something that makes sense to him. And so this is why Paul says, he says, I speak to the mature, because only the mature will begin to understand this. Because if you are natural, you cannot receive the things of the Spirit. You cannot receive the hidden wisdom that God has deposited and sent to you. And so it has to be through that. Which means, and I'm going to end with this, which means if you want the hidden wisdom that God has set aside for you, if you want the hidden wisdom that God has ordained before you were born, if you want that hidden wisdom that God has set aside for your glory, for your glory, if you want that hidden wisdom, you need to learn to shut your eyes. You need to learn to close your ears. You need to learn to stop analyzing it with your mind. And you need to learn to sit down and get alone and quiet. You need to learn to turn off the TVs, to shut off the music, to get alone where nobody else is there, to where the only sense that is operating is the Spirit of the living God, so that you can hear what the Spirit of the living God is going to transfer onto your life. And so if you want this hidden wisdom, you have to get to the point where you can control what you see, what you hear, and what you think, what your will allows to entertain your heart. You have to be able to control these three things to be able to access the hidden wisdom that God has designed for you, that God has set aside for you. Because if you don't, you are in such a habit of seeing things visually, or hearing things verbally, or hearing things with your ears, and you're in such a habit of analyzing things with your heart and dealing with things and how you feel about it. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how you feel about it. What matters is the truth. And so we are so used to dealing with these three senses, or these three gateways into our life, that if you don't learn to control them and shut them down, you will never hear the rest of what God is positioning and what He's sending to you, what He's trying to get you to know. This hidden wisdom that He is sending to you. And so, as I close, I want to challenge you right now. I want to challenge those people who are interested in going further into this hidden wisdom to come up here and to pray on the altar, to come up and to just give yourself a moment to pray and seek the Lord. Not because I'm going to pray over you, or not because of anything like that, but because it is important for you to make a distinction between you and everybody else. To make a distinction to say, it's me, I wanted this. Lord, I hear what you're saying, and I'm ready to move or ready to respond